did it right. We're live. Hello, welcome. Three of us plus a Danny Miranda who'll be popping in and out here. Welcome, everyone. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Friday, November 12th, the first ever kind of week recap show here at Lucky Trader. Again, being added to our weekly media schedule each and every Friday, along with our Monday stream. But each Friday, we'll come to you at this exact time to sort of recap all of the top news from the week of NFTs. And this week in particular, it feels like in the last, 24 to 36 hours, a lot of news has broken, or at least what feels like a lot of news has broken. We have the Kingship news that we're going to talk about. ENS was this week. CloneX Artifact CloneX, right, has mentioned that they have official reveal dates, not reveal dates, but, launch dates, officially revealed their launch date. A whole host of stuff. We'll go around the horn, though. Lou, how are you doing this morning?
Good. Yeah, we talked a little last night with Danny on the lounge about not exactly the Kingship, but things that the Bored Apes are doing. So it's a good sort of transition into that. We touched on ENS a little bit as well. Obviously, we had John George on for Decentralizing. So excited. We have a little different sort of topic lines today, so that'll be good to talk about.
Alex, welcome. Your first time on Lucky Trader Lounge.
Yeah, excited.
How are you doing? What are you most excited to chat about today?
Honestly, probably Bored Apes. I don't have one, but it's crazy how much momentum they're picking up since NFT NYC. Fallon, I think he just changed his profile pic today to Bored Ape, or yesterday or last night. Frank Dukes, a really high-end producer, also changed his profile picture to Bored Apes. And obviously, the announcement of Kingships, their momentum is pretty crazy. So I think that's interesting to talk about.
Yeah. The Jimmy Fallon thing, I actually didn't see until this morning. He threw out this tweet, permission to come aboard. Pretty good pun, by the way. This is a pretty good looking ape, I would say. But yeah, I think we should get really right into the heart of things for this particular show, which is to review, some of those notable insights throughout the course of this week. Bored Ape Yacht Club, of course, Jimmy Fallon headlining some of that news. But the other thing, and this was kind of the key point for the thumbnail today, was the announcement regarding Kingship from yesterday, right? Late yesterday / early this morning, some other stuff. Kingship, Universal Music Group working with, and I'm going to get the screen set up in a better shape here and hopefully get Danny in just a second. But Kingship is Universal Music Group working with 10:22 p.m. working together alongside Jimmy, J1MMY.eth, notable collector, participant, innovator, entrepreneur in the NFT ecosystem, to build out an NFT band. That's pretty unique, pretty interesting. We haven't seen any other NFT iterations of this just yet, have we?
I don't think so.
I think it's the first, yeah.
Not at least coming from the NFT side into the band. We've seen artists come into the NFT space, but not in this opposite direction.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull up the announcement from Universal Music Group here in a second, so we can take a look at that and go through it. I put it in the thumbnail here, the picture of all the different apes that are being selected, or that were selected from Jimmy's stash to be able to be included kind of in this band. The other thing I was mentioning as an aside is to some of the folks before the show started was, I think this is maybe the first iteration of these types of events taking place from the NFT ecosystem. So we're just now seeing, right, it happened with Bored Apes. We've seen sort of speculation or starts of media or more natural traditional media from NFTs, right, Deadheads has done some media stuff. Stoner Cats has been kind of more traditional or aimed at being more traditional types of media and, entertainment. So I think we'll see it. I'm most excited about this one, though. And the aside that I was going to mention is, I think we've already seen this for folks that maybe are native to NFTs, may not have seen things like this be overly successful, but we have seen this, or potentially have seen this in other ways, like with, you guys know Michaela? Alex, do you know Michaela?
No.
No? Okay, let me.
Is that it?
Let
Is
me
there
bring.
like a last name? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Michaela is like a real life. It's like an AI. I
Oh
guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Right.
think I've heard of her. Yeah.
Right. Like 276,000 YouTube subscribers. I think millions of Instagram followers. Right. And this is an AI that is now more or less like a part of everyday life for so many people. You know what I mean? They just like they follow in a band. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee now, different setup here for me. People were in this Target at 8 a.m. right across the road waiting for the Taylor Swift CD. It was pretty nuts. I was just there to get some spin drifts and like some body wash, and people are in the Target waiting for Taylor Swift. Much like people are waiting for Taylor Swift, there are people now waiting for things from Michaela, and there are people that are maybe eventually going to be waiting for things from Kingship. Can you find in your, in your own hearts any attachment to like these artificial intelligence bands or beings? Like, do you guys have any experience or thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm reminded a lot about Gorillaz, like the band. Like, I feel like they were like, I mean, imagine if Gorillaz was like an actual NFT. I think they would have like huge success, and I think that's very similar in the sense that like, I mean, there are four people behind the Bored Apes, but they're represented by these avatars, right? So I mean, if Gorillaz had so much success, and mainly because of the music was really good, then if the Bored Apes they're able to make, or Kingship is able to make really good music, then I don't see why we can't see like a repeat of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Lou, do you have a
wonder.
take there?
Yeah, like, do you think how much is it going to matter if the music is good? Because there's a lot. That's a big discussion we have with NFTs. A lot is sometimes the art doesn't have to be good, and it's just like the product overall. So, do you think if the music isn't that great, that it could still be a success?
I think it has to be good. So it's gonna have some natural. It's gonna have some natural diehard fans, right? Like anyone. This is kind of like that Web3 incentivizing thing, right? Where like anybody now who has an attachment to Bored Apes, whether it be through Bored Apes themselves or through Mutants or through Bored Ape Kennel Club, you're naturally incentivized now to sort of root for Kingship, right? And listen to Kingship and promote Kingship because that promotes the brand of BAYC and beyond. So I think it needs to be good though to garner any traditional. Yeah, I know it's not sharing my screen. Yeah, I know I'm not sharing just yet. But I think it needs to be good music. Yeah, for it to garner any like traditional, following. And like is that going to be a struggle? Like we're all sort of in our own echo chambers right now, right? Where our news, even all the stuff about like, are we early? Are we not early? Right. Those types of things. All of that information that we're taking in is as a result of all the people that we're chatting with every single day regarding NFTs, right? And the excitement and stuff about that we naturally feel as a result of being so close to it. However, the outside world, which has not yet come, and many, we're expecting, right, that the outside world has not really gotten here. We'd like to think that, of course, right? But are they going to latch on if the music's not good? Like what would be the reason for them to be excited about the band if it's bad? Why else do you like a band, right? The band is good, right? Like what? I don't know.
I mean, I think you can also be attached to like characters or like people that are personalities that are interesting. And you're saying that is Jimmy Fallon behind this like?
No.
Oh, okay.
Two different things that are just related and obviously advantageous. I would say
Yeah.
pros for Bored Ape Yacht Club. Yep, two
Yeah,
different things.
but I think
Yeah,
it
did
depends
they
on who
announce
is
it?
behind
Yeah.
like these Bored Apes. Like if they're
Yeah.
a bit more mainstream, I think that would definitely help pierce through like traditional media. But again, like I think right now, us who are like in Web3, like even if you don't have a Bored Ape or like a mutant or whatever, like I think we're all rooting for this band to succeed. But yeah, like I think if their music sucks, then it's probably not going to pierce like traditional media.
Yeah, are these going to be like real people behind it that we've heard of before? I think could be an important factor in there as well. I would guess there's not going to be that big of names that they more likely have people who are trying to make it kind of thing, and they're kind of going hand in hand.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what happens. And I want to be able to, there's so many things that happen this week. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about this, but I'm really curious to see what happens. The other aspect of this entire thing, you know, beyond Bored Apes, right? Beyond the music, beyond the band, is holistically the Creative Commons, you know, the kind of licensing thing, right? And I'm not super deep on intellectual property and brand usage and whatever, but that's sort of part of the allure from a handful of these projects from the last 6 months or whatever, right? Is that folks can take the asset that they had minted or purchased or whatever the case may be, and then use that asset in a way to build derivatives or to build brands. Like, right, we've seen it with Bored Apes a whole bunch of times with like Bored Ape coffees or whatever, right? Like things like that. This is a level up from all of that stuff. So I'm interested to see what happens there. Will people now in other communities in terms of NFTs, like will Toads have a band soon? Will somebody build a Toads band? Like, what do you guys think may happen there?
It seems like everyone loves to follow in the ape success. So I'm surprised there haven't been that many other like mutants that have come out in that sort of the serum version that they did, because I thought everyone was just going to go copy that. But yeah, I think if they're successful, then we'll see more of this. I don't know who the first was to make like shows, but I don't know, was it Stoner Cats? Because then it seemed like all of these other new projects were coming out with like little TV shows or 5-minute clips that were like animations. So it seems like everyone follows each other in this space.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Stoner Cats actually had the first show. They may have been.
They had one episode, but
Okay.
it might have. I don't think they've had another one.
Yeah, I guess I was going to suggest they may have. They may have been the first actual show. I'm not sure they had the first idea for show. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we have a question from Jason, or maybe a comment too, that I'd like to bring in here as we talk about, and we got Danny back as well. So we're at full strength now. Welcome, Danny. We've been chatting about Kingship, and we're going to move on here in just a second. But Jason brings up a question here about community and support, and potentially rejecting support. Just using the example of like what happens if Donald Trump or somebody else with, less mass appeal than like Jimmy Fallon, right, buys a Bored Ape. Do people rebel against it? Does community take a hit? What happens, Lou? You don't need to single out anyone, Lou, that you do not like. But if somebody you do not like or very much do not respect buys your favorite NFT collection, how does that impact you?
I don't think it would necessarily be bad. It depends, right? If it's someone that's like the head of the KKK or something, like if it's very controversial, I think someone like Trump could be controversial, but at the same time, that I feel like he'd still be a good person to do it.
Well, financially speaking, of course, right?
Yeah. I even just. He's just such a hot topic in the world that it would get people talking, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing if there was like a full collection that everyone in there had to be a member of the KKK. Like that's sort of what I was thinking, like when that happened with the Jungle Freaks, right? So it's a good point. Like I haven't really thought about it that much because we always think of it in the positive, I feel like. So I don't know. I think buying in is one thing. It's the leader of the project that I'd be more interested in what would happen if it's like the negative person.
Yeah. Alex, do you have a thought there about community building and potential community rejection should a disapproving...
Yeah, I'm trying to think, but I think it really depends on the community as well. So for example, like Cool Cats, it's a lot more family friendly. So like if someone like super decisive comes, I think it also depends on like what they do after change. Like let's say Donald Trump would change his picture to like a cool cat, and then afterwards he would have like a lot of different things that happens that is very controversial. Then I think the cool cats will try to like we love the cats, yeah, we do. Will try to like kind of like dissociate themselves from him, or just say like, you know, like these actions don't really reflect the cool cats values and stuff like that, because I think values are super important for a community. And like if someone who has a big image deviates from that, then I think people will try to talk and explain that, you know, they like whatever they do doesn't reflect the community as a whole.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm currently battling against the most rancid smell of a refrigerator you can possibly imagine. But what would happen if somebody I really didn't like came into a community? This is like Michael Jordan's flu game, you know what I'm saying, for a podcast host. But what would happen? Probably you would be very. Your first reaction would say, "Oh no, like I can't believe I'm in this community with somebody I hate." But maybe it might give you a new perspective on the person, because something about that person wanting to be a part of your club and you both had the same idea in that moment. So it might form more of a connection with the person you hate, and it might bring people together. Little hot take there.
And that's a good point, though. I like that. It's like trying to find middle ground, because like, I mean, yeah, in the first place, unless you really just want to do it for like you actually want to troll a community and that's why you buy one. But if not, then yeah, maybe you actually have good intentions and you want to be part of the community. So see what they contribute first, and if not, then yeah, like you can change your mind afterwards.
Yeah. Last thought on this before we move on about community, just because we missed a little bit from Danny. But Danny, Kingship news, right?
Yeah,
a band being built.
Exciting.
It is, yeah, it's crazy. We talked about a little bit about artificial intelligence, like personalities and things like that as well. Give me your really quick take on if you feel like you personally, Danny Miranda, could be attached to an NFT band.
Definitely. And I think the reason for that is gorillas. I didn't even realize.
That's what Alex said. Yeah.
Yeah. I was into the gorillas when I was a young kid, and I was like, who are these guys? I don't know. This is cool that they're kind of playing music under another avatar. And I just thought it was a great, there's precedent for it. And so that's exciting. And at first my initial reaction was like, that's kind of weird, but I think you should note when your reaction is, this is weird, because there might be something there. And who knows if the Kingship band is actually going to succeed, but something like it might succeed. And that's
Right.
exciting.
We talked about that yesterday, right? That the idea that like maybe if it feels weird, that's a good thing, because that's why a lot of other people in our version yesterday is more like, does it feel weird that the Bored Apes are 5 ETH right now? But then when it's 20 ETH, it almost feels less weird. So it's like, well, maybe right now it feels weird because we haven't seen it before. But in 10 years from now, there might be 20, 30 of these bands. And then all of a sudden it's not weird and they were the first.
Right. There's going to be 20 or 30 of these bands. There's going to be hundreds of these bands would be my expectation. And we're not going to hash on it for too much longer, but this is a huge point of news. So I think we'll come back to this in later episodes as well and kind of follow the progress of Kingship, right? But we just pointed out, Danny, for your sake, like Michaela, which is, one of those super notable AI personalities that has millions of followers and people don't care, right? And so I think we're reaching a point in time where you have a lot of folks in our demographic, right, our age range and younger, that are attaching themselves to these personalities and don't care. And so they won't think twice about Kingship in the future. Right. What Lou's saying right now is like, it seems weird to us in a way, because it hasn't happened, because we're boomers now. We're metaverse boomers, guys. We are certainly metaverse boomers. But let's move on. Earlier this week, actually, we got the news about the CloneX artifact drop coming, officially announced. Alex, I know you know a lot about this. You dropped the drop preview on the site. I'm going to pull this up on the screen for everybody. So firstly, this is, kind of your glimpse into the CloneX, clonex.artifact.com. I know CloneX, the drop itself and artifact has been cryptic, no pun intended, in many ways. We've gotten kind of snippets of excitement from them over the course of the last, I don't even know. I mean, they've been working on it for a long, long time, which is a good sign, right? That's good. It's not just kind of being thrown up on the screen. But we just released kind of a drop preview. It's got some details about what is Artifact, who is Artifact, what is CloneX, what could you potentially expect? Alex, with this news regarding, preparing ourselves for CloneX, preparing ourselves for this first drop, why don't you give a little bit of insight into, your expectations about the drop? You still, despite like all the gas craziness and, all those things in the last few weeks, bear market, are you still, you still expect something like this will sell out? Give me your takes on CloneX and the drop that's coming.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're trying to avoid gas wars, first of all, just because it's going to be a Dutch auction. The only thing is like we don't know what the price, what the starting price is. So it's either between 1 to 3 ETH. I think it makes more sense to start at 3 ETH because I think at 1 ETH it might cause actually gas wars, because 1 ETH for like such a hyped project might go like really badly, and I think 3 ETH should be a bit better. But again, like, I mean, obviously if I'm in the CloneX Discord or Artifact Discord a lot, and every time I'm like, oh, I think that at 3 ETH it's not going to sell out in like 10 minutes, and people are like, no way, like it's going to sell like in 30 seconds, it's going to be impossible to get. But I don't know, like 3 ETH is a lot of money, especially with ETH going up in price more and more. Like it's 15K for one CloneX, which is like pretty expensive. And I know that we do have a lot of people that are, ETH rich right now, but still, like it's a lot to consume on like just one avatar or NFT. So
Right.
I think that if they start at 3 ETH, I think it's gonna be a lot better. Is it gonna sell out? 100% sure. It's still like Artifact and CloneX, so like it's a really huge hyped project that's been talked about for like at least a few months now. And like they build up by releasing other NFT projects such as like the Focus like drop, the Jeff Staples drop, and all that. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a huge project. I don't think it's gonna sell out in like 2 seconds. And what I'm really curious about is like the secondary market, because so if you have a pre-sale item, then you can mint up to 3 CloneX for 0.05 ETH. But then if let's say in the public it starts at 3 ETH, and that creates like such a huge gap in like the pricing. So I'm very curious to see at what price the market is going to like settle at after the public release.
Yeah, I have a few additional thoughts or questions, actually. I'd like to get Lou your take on here. Something that's a little bit different about CloneX when you compare it to other projects. There's plenty of things different about it, right? But one of the things that's a little bit different from some of the other notable like drops is just collection size. We're looking at a collection of 20,000, right? Total, 10,000 to pre-sale or, holders, right, of the eligible Artifact NFTs, 10,000 for that public. Do you think people are going to be even thinking about that? Like we saw Mutants drop, like sell out almost, it took like 20 minutes maybe. And that was kind of like a stealth.
2.85.
Yeah. And it was like sort of like a stealth drop as well, like with Mutants, right? It was like a random Saturday night. People have time to prepare for this, both calendars and wallets appropriately. But like, do you think in the back of people's minds, they're going to be thinking about that, right? 20,000 piece collection. You have half of that supply being bought for 0.05 each. Are people going to be thinking about that? Like that's potentially, I don't know what Artifact's thinking, and I'm not going to be able to do the math or the economics here to be able to say what makes sense. Of course, nothing on this show is financial advice, just chatting, informational purposes only. But like, that would be something that would concern me just a little bit as a potential buyer in the Dutch auction, is like half of this supply. It's a big collection, relatively speaking. That's it. For future purposes, maybe not big at all, but relatively speaking, it's a big collection, and half of the supply is eligible for 0.05 ETH.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Lou?
So I'd say this is kind of a mix of two drops that I've seen before. The other one being the Gutter Cats, when they just came out with their last two species. They did it this way, and I think it hurt them the way they did it. where they had, if you had each a cat and a rat, you got a free mint pass. And then if you had one or the other, it was 0.75. And then it was 1.5 if you had neither. And I think a lot of people looked at that and said, well, why am I going to pay 1.5 to get in on this when other people are getting it for free? It's like the rich get richer idea. I think it's a little different here. I think, yeah. So Skylar, it was funny because Skylar called me out on that when I, for the gutter cat one, instead of minting at 1.5, someone listed at 1, and I bought in, and I actually sold my rat off to then purchase one of these new passes. So I did a little arbing on that one. I don't think you can really arb on this because the floor on the artifact stuff is like 12 ETH. So I think it's a little different here because people that have artifacts already are like amped that they have them. The art is awesome on this one. It's not like they already had a project. That's what the Gutter Cats was. There was already a project and they're adding to it. This one is like your first chance to be a part of this specific project. So I think it's a little different in that sense.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with starting it at 3 ETH. I feel like 2 ETH in your Dutch going down. The problem with the Gutter Cats is it wasn't a Dutch auction. It just was a flat fee. So I think the fact that this starts at 3, the market is deciding what the correct cost should be for it.
Right.
So the
Price
market
discovery.
could buy them at 1 ETH. They could buy them below that or something. So I think the higher you start it, let the market decide what they feel comfortable with what you're saying, like half of the supply is coming in cheaper.
Yeah, this is an interesting, like, there's a lot of economic debates that could go into this. I can see both sides, the pros and the cons here. I think we should do our natural Dutch auction alpha, which is, when Dutch auctions, like if this sells out immediately, it sells out immediately. But when everybody sort of thinks about their price point for a Dutch auction, if it does start at 3, which we don't have formal announcements on yet, but if it did start at 3 and your price point and everybody's price point in their head is 2, and you wait until 2 and then gas spikes and then you missed if you could have just paid at 2.4, right? Whatever, right? That's our typical kind of just notes about Dutch auctions as it is. But yeah, I could see the case either way here. I don't want to compare this to like Mechaverse or like any other post reveal drop, but I am, we saw it with mutants, right? Very similar type thing with mutants, almost the exact same thing, right? We did see an initial surge right after from like 3 to 7 ish, and then pretty much a decline is steady. Of course, mutants still now sit in like the 4 range. But
I don't know if they ever fell below 3 again.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that they've fallen below the Dutch auction price.
Yeah.
So like if you minted a mutant, it, still obviously is beneficial, but we'll see. The other thing I wanted to point out with Artifact, just for folks who may not know, of course, go to the site, read Alex's drop preview. It's going to give you some idea of like, who is Artifact? Like, who are we even talking about? What is CloneX all about, right? 20,000 piece collection, 3D metaverse ready collectible NFTs, right? But on the roadmap as well, like Artifact has been known for like their forging events and kind of bridging the digital and physical worlds. You know what I mean, right? Like my Ferocious shoes, they're from Artifact. I wish I was still holding the NFT. Sad. Nevertheless, right? Like that's a really cool thing that I can hold on to forever now, where I was able to sort of forge my NFT for a physical. So forging events on the roadmap, metaverse ready, wearables, right? Special access, of course, very cryptic and stuff. We don't know too much about what exactly these things may emerge as, but it's an ambitious roadmap. They've been working on it for a long time. It's a notable team. It's something you need to keep your eye on. Again, not financial advice, but keep your eye on. Danny, coming back in and out from the rancid smells and the broken refrigerator. Do you have any takes on candles at the ready? What scent we got there?
We have some white strawberry Bellini. Bellini?
It seems okay.
Wow.
Nevertheless, Danny, I want to get your take. Do you have a thought here about CloneX?
No, I'm excited to dive deep into Alex's piece and learn more about it. When you say metaverse ready, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, why don't you take that one, Alex?
Yeah, I think what they mean is that so basically they're going to give you like the files that you need to port your 3D avatar into like whatever metaverse that is created. So like I think Sandbox, Decentraland, they require like some certain files, 3D files, and basically yeah, they give everything with the avatar itself. So like if there is like a 3D and you have to like control your avatar, then you could just port that to any new metaverse that's being created.
Hey,
that's very cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And the other thing I'll say about this, it's going to segue us in nicely, I think, to maybe some talk about Treeverse and Timeless, because we got an announcement about them earlier this week as well. The other thing I'll say, though, is the not voxelated aspect of this is like fun for me. I'm kind of anti-voxel metaverse stuff. Like, I don't want to be the voxel guy. You know what I mean? Which voxel just meaning, I guess it's a genre style. I don't know what you'd call that, right? A characterization of art. But like me bits and all the other 8-bit stuff is kind of voxelated. I like that these are, I don't know, they seem.
Have you guys ever gotten into those the I'm a D-gens? Those like aliens? Those
I don't own
on,
any.
like, but they're big on being like in the metaverse and like the 3D rendering, and like they've had partnerships with a couple different projects. I think like Fluff World is another one where it seems like, I don't know, I don't want to say, I feel like people aren't ready for it in general, like the consumers themselves. I feel like they're not ready for actually being in the metaverse and playing with these characters. But that's where, like, if someone as big as Artifact is in here and pushing for it, then maybe that's going to help.
Well, it's not just Artifact, and Artifact's big in our world, right? But like Zuckerberg, Facebook / Meta. Danny, you wanted to chat a little bit about that. Mark's this. I'm showing Fluff World, by the way, which Lou referenced here. You can get to that on the site. NFTs drop down, of course. Type in, search, scroll for Fluff World. Of course, our lucky trader plug, as we need to do. These are, as an aside, I don't think I'm a fan of Fluff World in particular. I do appreciate
warm color palettes.
there are some warm color palettes here. They're a little creepy to me. I don't think I could be a Fluff World. You know what I mean? They're just like, there's something about it that doesn't, I don't know. I don't know how to characterize it. Just my opinion, though. Let's chat before we get to Treeverse, which is going to be another good segment. Danny, do you want to drop some knowledge about the Gary V. Mark Zuckerberg chat from earlier this week as well?
Yeah, that was a 30-minute podcast or maybe a 40-minute podcast. It was really well done. And it was cool because it was two people who obviously were at the cutting edge of Web 2, and then to seeing them discuss Web 3. I mean, what was notable to me was how deep Mark seems to get in the technology and how he's playing around with stuff to the point where I think he was on a dating site when Tinder and dating sites were just starting to take off, and it makes you think, does he have a Bored Ape? Is he involved in NFTs, and is he playing around with that technology? I'm sure he's involved in the hush way, but yeah, it was cool to me. Did you happen to see that, or
I started watching it? I started watching it. I didn't get through it. You know what? The thing I'll say here, and then there's some questions in the chat I want to get to, and I want to get to Treeverse as well. We still have plenty of time, but there's just so much news this week. So I want to leave time for all of it. But one of the things I'll say here is that I shouldn't say we, the NFT community in many ways, the decentralized like Web3 community in many ways, has been quick to dismiss the meta stuff, right? And very like dismissive of, oh, it sucks, it's going to be centralized, whatever. I'm not even going to take an argument or stance there at all. I think it's beneficial in the near term that they're talking about it and wanting to push it and bring more people in, right? The thing is, though, I think we should still be paying attention to what Zuckerberg and people like that are saying, because the dude's one of the smartest dudes on the planet. Like, we should at least give him some room to talk about. And did you watch the initial presentation? Like the meta announcement presentation? It looks dope. Like, yeah. I don't want to play with my voxel, but I would do that, I think. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's all I have to say there. Let's keep moving on. I got this question a few times, and this is gonna be our segue into Treeverse. Tom dropped a question in here. What would you do with 2 ETH if you're going to add a new NFT today? He said he's looking at Pudgy Penguins. Of course, Tom, we do have to use the disclosure and disclaimer that nothing we say here is financial advice. Nothing we say is financial advice. But I've gotten this question a few times, right? We talked about Bored Ape Yacht Club. Bored Ape Yacht Club is out of the reach for everyone, like for the most part, right? Even mutants, right? That's beyond that 2 ETH threshold. 2 ETH is a lot of money, but is a more reasonable potential ask. We're just talking about CloneX. We don't know if CloneX will even get to 2 ETH, right? Depending upon where that Dutch auction falls. Treeverse is above 2 ETH, but it's another notable project here. What do you guys think? Where should we be? Like, what's the best way? Of course, we're not going to point people to specific projects. That's sort of what I meant there, Tom, unfortunately. But what's the best way for folks who have 2 ETH right now to think about engaging appropriately? And I'm gonna ask you to break it down in this way so that we avoid the financial advice thing here. Do you spend your 2 ETH, Lou? If you're coming in with 2 ETH, do you spend it on one project, or are you diversifying across a handful of projects? And then we'll go around the horn, and then we'll segue into Treeverse.
Well, I think I have some sort of take on this because I get this question a lot. And the way that I usually like to respond to it, similar to what you're saying, is not choose a specific project. Like, I have specific projects that I own that I've been holding that are in that range. But the way I look at it is I look for the team involved. Are they looking long-term? Because if you're spending that much money, you're looking long-term. I don't think you're looking for that quick flip. I mean, we saw it with the Toads where they went from like 2 to 12 ETH in a week. And that's not realistic. So I think if you're looking to spend that much, you're looking longer term. So a team that looks devoted to long term, that's where things like the roadmap come into play. And then I look at the newer projects as well in the other sense, because we don't know yet and there's hype around it. And that's usually when these projects can be successful or has a lot of eyes on it. And I mean, personally, if I only had 2 ETH to spend, I think I'm more apt to throw it at a couple different projects because this is the reason why I didn't get back into Bored Apes after mine sold, is like, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself to one project. Like, if 2 ETH is your whole bank, let's say 2.5 ETH is your whole bankroll, you don't want to spend 2 ETH all on one project, because then, like, what if that project, if it starts going down, then you're starting to second guess yourself. So I like the idea of throwing it at a few different projects, I think. Yeah.
Alex, do you have a take there?
Yeah, I think my answer is very similar to Lou's. I would say look at the team, definitely, like, see if they are going to be a long-term bet. And then second is actually, I would say, try to find maybe 5 to 10 projects that you are interested in and just spend time in Discord and just talk to people and see what vibe you like. And those are the projects that I would probably choose. I also think that unless you really love one particular project, which I'm assuming you're asking right now, so there's not one project that you absolutely love, then in that case, I would just spend as much as you can on that project. But if not, then yeah, I think diversifying is always good, especially because you're not 100% sure about what's going on. You want to try different things. Maybe there's 2 or 3 communities that you think are fun, then just invest in them and see what happens afterwards.
Danny?
I don't think I'm well equipped to answer this question, considering that I had about 2 ETH and threw it all at creature toads, and that has depreciated about 90%. So I would say do whatever the opposite of whatever I would say to this question. So
yeah, not financial advice. Yeah, I mean, this is the internal debate, and I want to throw this back up there, Tom, as well, because the other thing that Alex just led me to in my own thoughts was the hard part, though, about throwing 0.1 ETH at 20 projects right now is gas. Is the 0.1 that you'd be spending is actually 0.2, maybe, right? And so you're paying a 50% markup just to acquire the item. That you maybe want to consider the amount of transactions you would be be making. And so I don't know, maybe that is impetus at present time to focus on only a couple.
Yeah, I think I have a new answer that
Lou has a new answer.
The way I would take 2 ETH is I would choose, say, or how much is that? That breaks out to 10 times 0.2. So I would say you buy 2 of 5 different like 0.2 worth of projects. I don't think that's necessarily going to be useful. So I'd rather do half of that. So I want to buy 2 items of each project that I buy into, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that's a rule.
That's
a rule. Buy one so you can flip one if you need to, right? It's a hard, fast rule.
So maybe do something like that where you find like 4 projects and you buy 2 of each, and hopefully they're all under like 0.3 or something like that. Or you could have one more expensive one, like one's 1 ETH and then the others are 0.2, something like that.
Yeah. Sorry, Logie, but for 2 ETH, I'd go Fluff World female, Fluff World thingy, and ride with that amazing dev team. So Fluff World has done some pretty like cool stuff, right? Like, we don't have it on the show notes, but I saw some Fluff World talk earlier this week. Did I not?
Yeah, and then you're fudding them on stream.
I'm not fudding. I need to make it clear. I apologize. I'm not fudding Fluff World. I'm just suggesting that I personally do not think I would survive in the metaverse as a Fluff character.
They're part of one of those games that recently came out. They're one of the avatars connected. So I forget which game.
I know this is a little off topic here. Not necessarily. I don't know, man.
But
Logan,
they make.
You're
have
allowed
you listened to any
not
of
like
them?
a project.
What'd you say, Lou?
Have you listened to any? They each have a song,
and
they bob their head with it. It's cool. I was a huge
this
fan
is
of Fluff
terrifying.
That's why I bought in. Like, this
because they're terrifying.
It gets people talking, and they're like it. Sometimes it's like that's the type of art. It's different than other art, right? It's not just the same thing.
So here's what I'll say. I should disclose, I do not own Fluff World. I considered minting Fluff World at 0.09 and did not. And then it sold out and went to like a bajillion right away, right? So like I bonered that. Unfortunately, I do not own Fluff World. At present time, I'm not like captivated by the Fluff World, what I see before me, but that does not mean that I would not potentially purchase a Fluff or invest in Fluff, given a potential strong roadmap and execution on that roadmap and a strong development team, right? Those are the things we were talking about as well. I just can't draw the emotional attachment, which I'm looking for in most projects, so that I don't feel bad if it goes to 0. You know what I mean? It's tough to get the best of both worlds there, right? Where you have the super strong dev team, you got all the really good, like if you can find both where you got that, and then you're also emotionally attached, hopefully like that's what I've got in Subducks, not financial advice, right? But like, if you can find that, those are the ones you want to hold, right? You get a good team, and then a team that you like, and the thing that you like, and then that's good.
I mean,
Great
I have
question
a
on
counterpoint. I feel like Fluff World does have that.
Well, yeah. Well, Fluff World might have the strong team part, right? They have that bucket. I am not attached to it though. The other bucket.
So I have a question on this because I talked to CEO Peter Jennings about this previously yesterday. And he was talking about Bored Apes and how it was hard for him to get involved in Bored Apes because of the fact that he missed it off the jump. You missed it off the jump. How does that bias your thinking going forward?
Yeah. No, this is a great question for a couple different reasons. If I can piggyback off it in my response, Danny. One of the things I'm bad at, like I'm really, really bad at this. This is full disclosure. I'm terrible at it. Is not necessarily being like jaded or whatever about the particular project, but I'm bad at buying on the way up. I think we've talked about this before, right? So missed Fluff World's mint. Fluff World goes up in the very near term, which seemed a little bit too much. Lou was talking about 2 to 12 for cryptos, right? Like it seemed like a little bit too much, which is maybe one of the reasons I didn't participate. But I'm also just naturally, I think, bad at buying on the way up of projects. And that's like the big thing is, right? Like winners win, you know what I mean? Right. And so I'm terrible at it. But how do I make that decision? Like, how do I eventually overcome and kind of force myself in? I think it's a combination of all those things that we've talked about here today. Like, does more information about the project, does more research about the project unveil to me that, oh, wait, the team is strong. Oh, wait, the roadmap is being executed on. In this instance, I'm probably not going to get the, oh, wait, I do like this art thing. But, like, do those things come to me? And if so, like, I think I'd like to think that I can change my mind. Yeah.
And also, another quick question on this is, you said you're not good at buying while the momentum is riding and buying up to the top, but you are good, it seems like, from my perspective, at selling at the top, or what at least like, at least with subducts. So not to make this all about Logie, but like what made you sell at the top in that particular instance?
So I still hold subducts. I did sell a subduct, or maybe one or two near the top-ish, the local top-ish. What made me do that?
Because that's impressive, right?
Yeah, it was luck. But overall, I mean, it was luck. It's just like, I'm not in that instance looking at like anything super specific data-wise. Like, hopefully in the near future, when we have more data about the market, we can do that. But like, the market right now is, well, not right now, but in this last 6 months is like irrational completely, right? And like exuberant and weird and crazy. And so at that point in time, Danny, to be quite honest, it was probably me feeling, and I don't know what I was feeling at the day of listing. Actually, I remember listing right after a dinner with Peter Jennings, believe it or not. But I think it was more
close to him.
I think it was more or less just like, I had a dinner with some friends and coworkers and walked away and felt like, when you get like set in reality for a little bit, like I take a walk in Nashville or whatever, is like and then you come back to your NFTs and you're like, holy shit, this thing's worth $20,000. I think it was one of those things. Like, full disclosure, yeah. I think that's what it was. It was like, and that's the weird thing. Like, I'm in Nashville this weekend, right? Like, last night I had dinner with like people that I got to meet on the internet, but like real people, like eat dinner and see what real money does. And it's kind of sobering and very, very weird. And then you like walk into this moment and you're like, what the hell am I doing with thousands of dollars worth of pictures of ducks? And
I
so
had the same thing.
Yeah.
With the Bored Ape. I talked with Danny about that last night. It's like, you had the luxury of having multiple.
Right.
So
right. Which is another reason I was okay with listing one. Plus I listed and sold a sombrero duck, and I had just finished my trip to Mexico. So it was a confluence of things. You know what I mean?
This is expert trading advice. But, one thing that I think we should actually do or make note of is like doing a little journal entry. This is what I'm going to try to do, at least. Doing a little journal entry when I list things for sale or when I buy things, so that I can get my state of mind when those things occur.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one sentence about it, that is so helpful to learn about your own psyche, because these things get distorted. And when you reflect on it and why you decided to sell, but if you actually write a journal entry in that moment, it's helpful to get better as a trader, get better as a NFT collector.
We should do this because we've talked about wanting to do a DAO lounge wallet.
Yeah.
We're still looking into literally the regulatory / legal things. That's what we have to do as a real company here. LuckyTrader.com, folks. But once we figure those things out, I think we want to do that. And we should certainly, one, try to make our decisions using the tools and resources at Lucky Trader. As we get more information, as we get more data, some of these things will become apparent for us. I know Jason's in the chat. Like, Jason's working on some articles that I think are going to be really helpful for some folks about like mid-tier versus top-tier rarities, right? And like what matters and what doesn't potentially. And, we're reflecting on not tons of historical data, but like actual data to help dictate those things. And so I think we're going to have a lot of information that'll help, but we should do this. We should certainly do this. We should build a wallet. We should make decisions based on data and information that we have, journal entry every single time. And maybe sometimes it is gut feel. Maybe Alex or Lou comes on and they're like, I can't resonate with this fluff world anymore.
I'm out.
Well,
We sell.
I think it's something that, and I'm not sure if Danny specifically said this on the spaces yesterday or not, but they kind of talked about it. And I think it's something important just in general life as well, where you're able to adjust your thinking as you get more information. And I think something like Fluff World, maybe originally you're like, this looks weird, whatever. But then further, as they go down their roadmap and they're attaching themselves to other projects, they're creating a different community, like the ability to adjust how you think. And I think a lot of people did that with the Bored Apes, where then they bought in later because at 10 ETH, it made more sense in a weird way than at 2 ETH because they've seen everything that they've done in the past. So I think that's something important that people should look to do, is just being able to adjust to new information.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And that sticker shock thing, like this is one of the things I'm bad at. I was just mentioning, right? Like I missed it too. And you feel like you missed the boat when it's at 10, but if it's at 10 as a result of, not maybe directly as a result of, but because of continued success or execution by the team, that is maybe or hopefully an indicator that the team will continue to do so. And 10 is, just a number in its infancy of what it could be. Let's get to some other things. Alex, are you a Treeverse guy? Do you own Treeverse? Do you hold Treeverse?
I don't own Treeverse. I wish I did though, but
yeah. This is another one of those things that I saw Loopify tweet about it long ago, and just I don't know why I didn't, participate. I think I'm struggling. We've talked about struggling to like build either the thesis behind some of these plays. Like for our journal entries, we should also too, if we're buying, like why do we buy, right, Danny? The other side, maybe you already mentioned that, but like it should be both. It should be why do we buy, why do we sell?
Yeah.
For Treeverse and like other generative art, like I should say it on every show just to shame myself, but I sold a ringer for 1.5 ETH. I couldn't possibly build I didn't build it. I guess I could have, but I didn't build the thesis about generative art. I didn't build a thesis about art blocks. And I also just had no clue like how early we were, you know what I mean? Metaverse stuff is tough for me to like, I don't know how I feel about it. I think it's inevitable in many, many ways, but I don't know where I stand and how I will evaluate these projects. And this is just one that I should have just basically done the whole like strong founder going to put his time, effort, reputation against this project. And like, sometimes it's all you need, right? But anyway, for those, we are talking about what happened this week and what's upcoming. Treeverse, the project announcing the launch of Timeless, an avatar companion for founders, plot holders, and also MetaKey. Am I making that up?
Yeah, I think it's founders plot and
we have it on the
NFTs.
Yeah,
NFTs. Yeah. Yes, and of course you guys can access this on the schedule page at luckytrader.com. We've now updated this. It's what does it say? November. I'm gonna scroll by it. 17th, 18th. Timeless right here. November 17th. Okay. Yeah. 0.222 for every founder, possibly hold one, free mint for every NFT tree. But Timeless itself, 11,111 randomly generated avatar collectibles for the Treeverse metaverse, right? Playable characters, upcoming MMORPG. Is there a way to I don't know if anybody.
It's like World of Warcraft.
Well, yeah, isn't it? Doesn't it stand for like? I'm going to butcher this. Is it like multiplayer, basically online role-playing game? Something like that?
Massive multiplayer.
Yeah.
Mass multiplayer, online role-play. Okay, I didn't know that until just now. Anyway, do people say it like Morpeg? Do they say that, or do they just say MMORPG?
I think it's RPGs, only MMORPG.
I think Alex.
I've never heard MMO.
Okay, I think Alex is right here. Regardless, this is big. Like this is notable. Treeverse has picked up a ton of steam here recently, and this is one of those projects that, despite bear market, are we calling it that? Have people like concluded that definitely it is or it isn't?
Well,
I was saying that to Peter.
It's not a bull market.
It's not a bull market.
Right?
Yeah, that's Yeah.
A pullback.
Oh, I'm sorry. I typed in Treeverse here, or I want Treeverse. But anyway, Treeverse is a project. You take a look at the floor price movements here, right? Some of this is just as a result of some stale data, but like this is the last, what is this day? So, okay, this actually isn't that, yeah, last like 2.5 weeks, right? October 28th, about 2 weeks, which is where we've seen this not bull market, right? About that amount of time. And this is, yeah, this is held up. I know, I mean, some ebbs and flows here, but you don't see I mean, if you look at other charts, it's straight down or gradually down. And this is still what we're above where it was even a few weeks ago. Of course, you can access all these floor price movement charts for all the assets that are in all the collections that are supported on luckytrader.com. If you're curious about that, view the transactions tab. Of course, there's no asset explorer for Treeverse because these are fungible tokens. Actually, the founders plots, they're all like the NFTs themselves all look the same. Like if you go to transactions, they look the same. So there's no asset explorer. There's no like rarities or anything for us to show you, but you can see here what these look like. I go to, yep. Nevertheless, it's held up well and just announced, right, Timeless launching. And Loop has also teased some other stuff. This looks like real this is the metaverse, like the Zuck video. Like this is something that I think I would be comfortable being in and like participating in. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I'm into a few of those, but to me, it's just so hard. Like say, and I like to use fake numbers so that I don't out myself on specific numbers or anything. But say you had 5 of something and the floor was 2 ETH. Like, wouldn't you just feel so compelled to start selling them? Like, you might believe in the product long term, but I mean, it's been how many months since that came out, right? So say it's been 3 months since that came out. Now, like during that 3 months, you don't know if they're going to succeed in creating a metaverse anytime soon.
Yeah.
Like we saw that happen kind of with Top Shot with the whole idea of like the game that they were going to come out with, or even trade tickets. Like it's hard to know time frame, even if you believe in the project long term, when all it is like these plots that you can't even see on a map yet. You haven't played a game yet. So that was the tough part for me. But I think it seems like they're separating themselves from other projects.
Yeah. I think we'll be able to look back at this too, actually, about some projects, and it might not be super scientific. And I can't think of any like really strong parallels to like the traditional investment world, but we might be able to look back at projects that like saw decent volume, like X amount of volume, and not in Y decrease in price as like a super strong positive, right? For projects that were able to sustain themselves. I don't know. I'm sort of making stuff up here, but trying to make some stuff up anyway. Jason says they raised 15 million, keeping prices up. Yeah, I think it is a long-term hold, not financial advice. I don't know how to develop my conviction on the metaverse stuff. We're gonna have to get some metaverse people. Like Alex, I think you're our for right now on this show, you are our resident metaverse expert.
Man.
Whether you
going
knew
pretty
it,
low there.
whether you knew it or not, you might have been.
Sandbox has been pumping recently, hasn't it? That's another one that I've always been
all the
interested in,
all the metaverse coins as well have pumped. Like I was just looking at a blog post I wrote in early January about mana, which is Decentraland's coin. I didn't hold it, but it's up a ton. Everything metaverse related has boomed here recently. Is anybody like actually doing stuff in the metaverse right now? Like Alex, are you like in Sandbox or Sominum?
I actually don't like any of these metaverse things like Decentraland, Sandbox. Like I feel that it's so weird to buy. Like I don't understand still the concept of like buying real estate in the digital world. Like I feel that I think it does make sense because eventually like it's not infinite space, and then there's going to be like some central space where you want to be up in front, and if you buy a better location, then yeah, you're going to have like a like more visibility, I guess, to other people. But I just don't believe enough in all of these projects to buy in right away. Like I think there's going to be a way bigger like, I don't know, maybe it could be meta, it could be like a new thing, but I think it's going to be a lot more open world, and it's not just going to be like certain plots that you have to buy. Like, I think it's going to be
Yeah.
a lot better than what we currently see, and that's why like I'm not investing into any.
So what
like,
would
metaverse
make
project.
you invest? And you don't need to name any projects
Yeah.
here, right? But like, what's it going to take for a metaverse? Because I'm having the same thing. It's like I remember tweeting. Like, you go back to my terrible tweets from January and February, but like I was looking at virtual land and I just like couldn't decide what I wanted to buy. Right? I didn't really like Sandbox that much. Decentraland, like whatever. I don't even know who was launching land at that point in time that I was thinking about buying, but this is the thing I'm struggling with, and I'm sure a whole host of others. Metaverse is foreign to so many of us, and it's complex in the way that profile picture projects are not. Profile picture projects are just profile picture projects. It's easy. Like, there's rarities. It's somewhat easy, somewhat, we should say. Metaverse, what's it going to take, Alex, for you to be like, okay, yeah, all right, this project, what is it? Like, what is there a thing? Is it like it needs to look a certain way? Does it need to have a certain team? Do you have an idea there? Or maybe you're still developing it all?
Yeah, I have like two thoughts. One is like I can use Treeverse, for example. Like I've heard of Treeverse for like, the past months, and I just wasn't very attracted to buying plots of land, so that's why I didn't buy at all. But once I saw the time list, then I was like, oh shit, like this is really cool. Like I would rather buy a character that I can use in game and attach myself to that character than just like a plot of land. And maybe this goes back to the conversation that we're having earlier, where I wouldn't mind missing the mint price and seeing it going up and waiting until it's like 5 ETH and seeing that the team actually executed for like a long time, and then seeing the potential of this metaverse to like, like I actually see, okay, like maybe there's a trailer, there's a beta of like what this looks like. And only then would I be more comfortable to invest in. So like, it's more of like a waiting game, and like, I'm probably not going to be an early adopter. I'm going to wait until like it's a bit more set in stone, or like it has proof of execution, and then I would invest afterwards. So I wouldn't be like super late, but not super early either.
Yeah, Danny, I want to get your take here, because you've been someone that's been strict is maybe not the right word, but right, like in terms of profile picture stuff, I've asked you a handful of times, what's it going to take? And you're like, you know what, something's got to really captivate me, because you love your own brand, you're trying to build your own brand, you like being Danny Miranda, and that's cool, that's awesome, that's great. What's it going to take metaverse? What, like, are you going to get in? What's it going to take for you to get in? And I don't mean get in terms of like project, specifically maybe, but actually participating. Like, what would it take for you to take that jump?
Yeah, I have a bit of a different take here, I guess, because I think when you signed up to Twitter, you bought your username in the metaverse, meaning that you're putting that piece of real estate and saying LHitch09, that's me. And what's up? You're on mute.
I'm muted. I was saying it's the worst. I wish I could have @Logie everywhere.
Exactly, right? And so when we're thinking about this, it's like we're already in it. And I don't think that the metaverse will be something that is like, we're in the metaverse by being on Twitter, from my perspective, all the time, tapped into it. And we own a piece of real estate that is our brand, or that is our Twitter feed. It's going to look more immersive and feel more immersive. I don't know how exactly that will manifest, and it might not be Treeverse, or it might be Treeverse, but it's like, I don't think we could possibly predict how we'll be interacting in 10 years. And really, that's what we're betting on, right? Like, how will people be interacting?
Right. But you still gotta, like, you're going to try to predict though, right?
Of course.
So
but
what's it going to take? Like, when do you take a stab?
Yeah, I'm in Alex's camp. I need to see more. I need more people to be involved. But I also think we're already living in it, in some weird way.
Lou, what's it going to take for you, metaverse?
It's weird, but I think that this last year with COVID really changed a lot of my thinking with it. And one thing that was happening that I don't know if you guys were a part of last year or not, but a lot of musicians, artists were having live streams, concerts basically, and there would be different concerts where throughout a Saturday or Sunday. It's like every hour there's a different artist that comes on and they do their set, and then they might have, you know, like things in the background, or they're at their house, like this, that. And that to me is the metaverse as well. And I've done a couple different events in Decentraland, and one of them, I don't know if you guys saw or got into that like Wonder Quest one. It was with the eggs, but it was through Alice in Wonderland is the artist, and she put on a concert. If you were a member of the community, had one of her NFTs, you were able to attend the concert. And so I think we'll see things like that. And we're already kind of there where, from the artist perspective, it's going to cost them less to do a production like out of their home, or like in with equipment they already have. And they can charge tickets through NFTs. And so I think there's different ways that we'll be able to see, like maybe that'll be like stand-up comedians do something like that, or different ways that it's kind of the metaverse, but also outside. But I think Decentraland and Sandbox, like these are going to be platforms for people to be able to use. So I don't know. I think I'm on the side of, I do see it as being a thing, but I'm also on the side of we're not there yet for people thinking that same way that I just explained. I think the general public isn't even close to being there yet. And so that's the concern of buying into something right now for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lou.
So
And
much
on that,
metaverse.
no, but on that point, it's like we're going to see it before everyone else does, in the sense of, if you were covering social media, you would buy a Facebook stock in 2009 because you would understand that everyone was soon to be going on that. I don't know if you could buy a Facebook stock in 2009, maybe 2012 when they IPO. And it's like you were ahead of the rest of the world. And so we'll see it. And then the rest of the world will see it. And if we don't even see it yet, that's a sign that it's a far ways away from my perspective.
Yeah, let's get to two other things. We got about 23 minutes left here that I wanted to chat about from like in this last week. The first one is related to an NFT drop that maybe had some controversy. At least I saw some on the Twitter feeds, but it's Zeneca's drop from earlier this week. Danny, you had Zeneca on the pod, Lucky Trader Podcast, which of course you can download in all of your podcast locations. These shows actually now, poor listeners, these shows now can be found in all those same locations that you find your podcast. So you can go ahead and download the Lucky Trader Podcast in all those spots. Anyway, Zeneca had his drop earlier this week, right? ZenAcademy.io, giving people access to his Discord, potentially being closer to him and his advisories, or, you know, I'm not entirely sure. All of the formal details are listed in the image, of course, that I'm sharing kind of on the screen here. But I saw some pushback from traditional crypto / NFT native folks about, you know, making people pay for access and things like that. This is a topic that's, you know, close to us, right, at Lucky Trader as well. All of our tools and resources at present time are free, but people want to be able to potentially invest alongside us and be incentivized. That's kind of the Web3 thing, right? Do you guys have any takes here? Any thoughts? Lou?
Yeah, I think it's tough looking at something like that for me, because I think the big thing people complained about was the price. And it's hard to put a price on alpha, I guess is how you'd say it. So that was something we did in our Discord from Club MGI, where we put out a token where some people want to be able to speak what their thoughts are in like a more private way. You know, a general Discord of a project might have 50,000 people in it, 10,000 people in it, and you want to give your thoughts, but you don't want someone else to hop in and do it before you can act on it. So I think some of it is like people want to be able to invest in someone who can like give them good information, right? But at the same time, at what point is it like overpriced? And I think the 888 was similar, where a lot of people are super into it. And then once they started seeing what came out of it, they felt it was overpriced. And I think a lot of these like alpha discords that have come out have turned out to be overhyped, and people aren't getting as much out of it as they might have thought, especially for it was 3 ETH, wasn't it? For this Zeneca thing?
One of the tiers, right? Like the top tier, I think was 3.3. That's a
Mhm.
lot. The other hard part here is just like, we've seen, I think maybe Peter Jennings has tweeted about this, and it's that often like that trope about like everybody's a genius in bull market stuff. And this has nothing to do with Zeneca at all. I think the education he's provided and the data and the insights that he's provided has been purely, for the most part, objective and helpful for tons and tons of people. But that's going to be like a very difficult part of the next whatever. We're in winter. Is there a fair price? Like, people's expectations, unfortunately, are not going to be met. We're not going to meet them at Lucky Trader. Like, nobody's going to be able to meet them because the number's not just going to go straight up. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to reshape expectations as a consumer as well. To what's a fair price on alpha?
Yeah, and on that point, I don't think anyone would be upset at Zeneca if he had dropped this project during a bull market. Right? It's only when prices are going down where people are like, oh, wait, I don't know if you should do that. But if prices are going up, everyone's like, oh, it's all good. It's all good. That's at least my perspective.
Well, right, because they could recoup their investment much, much quicker, right? Like the 3.3 is okay, and then you get a couple tips about some projects that are coming, and that 3.3 is 12.3 immediately. So yeah, you know what? My guess, this is just a guess, and I'm not participating actively in the Zeneca drop or anything. Follow, of course, Zeneca's work on Twitter. But my guess is that there's a strong likelihood that the 3.3 ETH will pay itself off. If he stays committed to the thing, which he has, mentioned on your podcast, right, Danny, as well as on Twitter a handful of times, that he's committed to making it valuable for holders. He wants to return value for holders. I don't think he's a pump and dumper. I think he provides objective information. So I expect that he will return value to those holders. It's a, just a criticism right now of like making somebody pay $15,000 or whatever, close to it for access to a Discord seems pretty outrageous. But
yeah. And I think the perspective I have on this, and I guess it's a little different because I'm in a Discord that's like private and tokenized in that sense. But the reason I like that Discord has nothing to do with who the head of the Discord is and who you're paying it to. It's more about the people within the Discord.
Right.
I'd rather be in a Discord that has 200 people who all have alpha and are all sharing ideas versus following the leader. And it's just like you're paying the leader to tell you what to do. It's more, I want to be connecting in a community of other people that are like-minded, or can be like, hey, have you checked this out? Or has anybody looked into DeFi? And then you go down that rabbit hole. And that's more so what I'm looking for.
Yep. That's community fostering, right? For people that are like-minded. And I mean, that's what we're trying to do at Lucky Trader as well. Just as of right now, everything is accessible and free for you. You can find actually Lucky Trader Community Discord just launched last week. So we're being very cautious given all of the Discord issues with permissions and things like that. But please hop in. You'll have access to all of us to be able to chat, other members of the Lucky Trader team, other people from the Lucky Trader community to talk about NFTs. And we'll be gradually over time, hopefully opening things up a little bit and making them, more like other Discords. Though, of course, you can't replicate Lucky Trader stuff and all the other Discords, right? Last note here, and then I want to be able to take some questions from anybody else that has questions, or else we'll just kind of walk ourselves out here at around 11. Oh, sorry, I'm an hour behind now. 12:30, right? Yeah, 12:30 Eastern time. The last little note here was something Alex threw on the show notes from last night. I think the NFL tweeted this OBJ punk image. This
Very
from last
cool.
night.
Yeah,
I think it was from last night.
Yeah, 6:09 p.m.
Bullish.
So this is the punk OBJ owns, right?
Is it?
The head.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right.
Yeah,
Though
yeah.
there was like a punk body thing earlier this year, but yeah, he owns the head. This is interesting. the NFL, of course, as folks may know, the NFL plus Dapper Labs working on, they haven't named it yet, right? But a Top Shot-esque marketplace for NFL moments, or whatever they call those. NFL, it has to be moments, right? What else would you call them? I don't know.
Highlights.
Anyway, yeah, whatever, Danny. Highlights is so boring and old.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, people are calling them momes now, I think.
Oh, you're
right?
hip with
Momes.
it. You're so hip with it, Logie.
Anyway, what I wanted to get to here was like, we're starting to see more and more of these brands embrace it, you know, just kind of like full on launch into it. Like Dapper Labs and, well, the NFL now, right, is incentivized to promote NFTs as well because of the Dapper Labs agreement.
Very
That's
true.
so good for us. Our
People
bags.
are coming. They're pumping.
Oh my God. What do you think brings more? This is a good question, actually. All of you will answer it. What do you think brings more? Coinbase NFTs, NFL Dapper Labs NFTs?
Great question.
Lou,
I think Coinbase.
Alex?
Like money in, probably
No.
Coinbase.
Just
like
people.
exposure, I think NFL.
Danny.
How many daily active users does the NFL have?
Danny, damn it, just answer the question.
It's a good question.
It's a good question though.
Right? I'm curious, like how
Of
many
course.
people care?
Of course, we would answer this objectively with data and information should we have had it, but you don't have it right now. Just give me your answer.
Jamie, can you pull that up real quick?
Mm.
I would say Coinbase because the market is closer and that people they're already invested. I think for awareness,
Yeah.
top of funnel, it is it's going to be NFL, but for actual action taking, it's going to be Coinbase because they're closer
Yeah.
to the step.
I would agree with that. I think Coinbase is going to bring more crypto native people, right? People who already own some crypto. But one of the allures of Top Shot, one of the reasons that a lot of us are here right now, right, is the friction removal, the removal of friction of crypto, the ability to buy with a credit card, the ability to sign up with a username, which tons of pros and cons, right? Centralization versus decentralization. Lots of pros and cons. We're not going to get into that part, but I'm actually on the side that I think in terms of unique people, I think the NFL will bring in more.
Don't we already have a lot of the NFL people though? I guess that's my.
I
thought,
think
is
not even
from
close.
NBA.
I don't think so.
I think
'Cause
not
there's-
even close. I think
There's
not
a lot
even
of
close.
people that are like, "Oh, I'll do it once it's NFL stuff," kind of idea.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to like look at the demographics a little bit closer. This is purely, me speculating and all anecdotal evidence. But my guess is like the NBA's demographic skews younger, clearly, right? Which is likely more. And I'm making a lot of connections here that should probably not be connected, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm the host, so I can do it. Anyway, my expectation is that the NBA's audience skews a little bit younger, right? And that they're probably a little bit more crypto native or more likely to be crypto native and more technologically native than the NFL's audience. But the NFL's audience, because it skews a little bit higher in terms of age demographic, boomers, right? Also likely has disposable income or is more likely to have disposable income. Maybe, I don't know. Arguments could be made there either way. But I think in terms of unique new people, I think the NFL is going to bring in just an outrageous amount of people that don't already own NFTs.
I think it's a very good comparison.
Yeah. It's good for either way. It's good, right? Like Coinbase, so it doesn't matter who brings in more, only for the sake of coming back to this show and like gloating that I got it right or didn't. But it's good either way. Right.
So one thing that I thought of initially is fantasy football players versus fantasy basketball players. If you think of people more inclined to play fantasy basketball are going to invest in Top Shot, and people more inclined to play fantasy football are going to invest in the NFL equivalent. And so just a quick stat here is there were approximately 60 million NFL fantasy football players. And I don't have the exact number, but it says 20% of all players who play fantasy basketball, and 80% of all players who play fantasy football. So
okay, so you're saying, sorry,
yeah,
of
that's 4x.
unique fantasy players, 80% only play football or play football. It doesn't matter exclusively or not.
80% play football of all the fantasy ecosystem.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, you guys want some alpha here? Jason's tuning in. By the way, I turned on NFL.dapper.labs. If you've not already signed up, NFL.dapper.labs, join the wait list. They said in the initial PR release, they said this was coming this season. We don't know when, but they said it's coming, and you're going to want to be on the poor Danny. When I put the comments up, he gets covered over.
My
Regardless,
initial thought was Thanksgiving games. That was my initial thought when it came out, but we haven't really heard anything recently, so I'm not sure. But I thought that was like a big stage, like they do this every year. This is like an NFL thing,
or maybe the playoffs.
Playoffs, yeah, playoffs.
But I thought they said that it would be before playoffs. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Playoffs
But
makes
things
sense
take
too.
longer than they expect.
So Jason threw up here. Number one fantasy sport in the world is cricket. There is like a cricket game similar to So Rare, I believe, because I looked it up earlier this year and almost invested in it. But I want to segue this to So Rare as well. So Rare is something that's not talked about at all right now. I have no clue what the market looks like, right? Gary Vee pumped it earlier this year. You saw even the Crypto Strikers thing, which is different than So Rare, but similar to Top Shot, right? First, is it verifiably first, right? NF or
The
cards
Strikers?
collectible? Yeah,
I forget. I think so.
I think it is. Regardless, there are avenues to more and more people. Like football is like just USA. So 60 million or whatever you said, Danny, that's just the United States. You know what I mean? There are avenues to many, many more people, cricket being one of them, soccer being another, that are areas like you consider you're coming in with 2 Ethereum, right? You want to play a long-term game. Find some of these projects that have like, again, traditional investing thing, but total addressable market is like egregiously large.
I got one for you. Esports. That should be able to like very easily transfer into.
So-
I heard that
NFTs.
that Twitch might do that. Is
Twitch?
it possible? Is it Twitch that
Twitch
they
is a huge
or like
brand,
some other
too.
platform that like was trying to create moments for
Eternal?
esports? I think that's gonna be huge.
Eternal, yeah. They've only done like YouTube or TikTok stuff, right?
I don't know what they're
streaming.
doing, exactly where they're doing it, but this makes sense to me, that you could like clip things, right? And then potentially sell them as NFTs. It's just it's an area where I have just no,
It's a little niche.
it is. And I have no clue what to do, but esports, you're right, Lou. It's another thing that like get in the weeds, right? We're talking, this whole week has been about participate, get your airdrops, baby, tokens. We love it. Get in the weeds on one of these places with like massive total addressable markets potentially that just have not been, maybe they've already blown up. I don't know. And we just don't know about it because we're in our profile picture bubble. But my guess is that they haven't really blown up and they have a huge opportunity to blow up if things become easier for people that are normal people. Coinbase, right?
We talked about it a little last night about So Rare. So
Yeah.
So Rare boomed already, like in February, March, like around
Right.
then.
Gary
Like,
Vee pumped it, man.
And I mean, I still have So Rare. I still enter contests, but it seems
You
like
you enter the
just like
contest.
Yeah, it's free to enter. So as long as you just remember to enter them, you have a chance at it's a point-based threshold. So if you get like 200 points, it's 0.01 ETH. If it's 250, you get 0.02 ETH. So you can just like kind of it's more of like a little bit of a grind because there's less action on the marketplace now.
Yeah.
But with the thesis being soccer is like the biggest sport in the world and they have all different countries involved and teams from all over the world. But I think the issue is they don't really have the big name teams as much, like the EPL. So that's where people kind of went away from
Do
it.
they only have Bundesliga?
No, I mean, they have tons of leagues. They have a bunch of Asian leagues. They have the big ones in there are the J League from Japan, the K League.
I don't know.
In Korea. They have MLS is one, but like people aren't huge on the MLS even
I'm
in
not
the US.
I'm not a football fan. I root for AFC Richmond, baby. That's it. Ted Lasso. That's it. Football is life. Okay, we got 5 minutes left. Any parting thoughts, Lou?
I think Monday, I'm excited for that show with Tom coming on.
Yeah, Monday
historical
morning,
project.
11 a.m. Eastern. Tom Bilyeu will be. I will not be here, but Lou, Danny, Tom Bilyeu. Alex, parting thoughts though.
And yeah, I'm also excited about Tom Bilyeu. I guess you guys are going to talk about Mary Mods on Monday. That's going to be exciting. But yeah, I think next week is going to be super crazy for the, like, I don't know if it's going to, create the bull market to come back, but like Artifact, Treeverse, Tom Bilyeu's project.
Right.
Like,
all these things that we've been talking about today, a lot of them next week. Yeah. Danny.
I'm so grateful that you cannot smell what I smell in this moment.
So are we.
Because when they create a way to transfer smells, then we'll really have entered the metaverse, and then I will be able to invest in one of these projects. But it is great to be here with you folks. I'm incredibly honored and humbled to have shared the stage with you three fine gentlemen, and I hope you have a tremendous weekend filled with amazing smells.
Yeah. So my last thoughts here are, of course, all the shameless plugs that I need to do. So this week was our first kind of full media week. We have new streams coming 11 a.m. Monday Eastern, 11 a.m. Eastern Monday. Tom Bilyeu, Danny, Lou. Tuesdays, Lucky Trader podcast and Lucky Trader NFT show with Preston Johnson. Thursdays, Lucky Trader Twitter Spaces hosted by Danny. Yesterday was Peter Jennings, our CEO. In the future, other guests, office hours, AMAs, questions, whatever. Friday, your kind of week recap / look ahead based on all the news and notes that comes throughout the course of the week. This week, there was so much news, most of it hopefully to come next week, and then we'll be able to kind of take a look back or speak about the week coming up. We'll see what happens. Last thing I want to say, we have a handful of like notable reveals happening tonight. Curious Addies, I think, reveals maybe, or is that 24, 48 hours? Smileverse is supposed to reveal 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe. LuckyTrader.com. I think it's 9 p.m. Eastern. LuckyTrader.com, though, one of the benefits, of course, to using Lucky Trader, NFTs, rarities, almost immediately upon full metadata reveal, right? So we'll wait for the metadata to fully reveal itself so that information is accurate in terms of rarity, but we'll get those links pushed out as soon as we get them live on the site. You'll be able to immediately access the Asset Explorer, search for, find something that's mispriced or whatever, and add to your Smileverse collection. So a bunch of reveals later tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, participating. If you have questions, issues, feedback about the show, again, first iteration of it today. Thanks for everybody for being here. Otherwise, if you have questions, feedback, things we can do better in the next one, please let us know. Like, subscribe, do all the things that you typically do on the channel. Download the podcast, go to luckytrader.com, follow us on Twitter, do all those things. There are so many things we ask of you each and every time. Do them, please. Otherwise, I'm going to try to do this thing where I X us out appropriately. So here we go. Let's see.